going to go ahead and do it. Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian. I'm here with Alison and special guest TL, and this is Maintaining Frame, where we're going to be continuing our dive into Psychoanalytic Feminism by Christina Wolf. And yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. So welcome to the show, everyone, and greetings. And I just want you guys to know, you may notice that Badger Chan looks a little different this time. We've had some, I don't know, complaints, I guess, about the Badger Chan being a little distracting. So she's a little different. So that this hopefully will get us less, I don't know, static. But anyway, Alison, why don't you tell everybody what we're doing? What? Go ahead.
Well, I just want to clarify the complaints. One person just said that she was very distracting, is all. So I guess we could save the Distracto Chan for game streams, and for streams where you actually have to think, we'll keep maybe a little bit more modest Chan. But yeah, so if you want to send a message at any point throughout the show, please do so at feedthebadger.com/justtip, and the monthly fundraiser is live at feedthebadger.com/support. So please do help us out so we can continue to do this analysis of this increasingly moribund. Is that how you say it? Moribund? Morbid?
Morbid?
Like, no, not morbid. It's moribund, right? Moribund? It's a specific.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's like moving towards death, but slowly and with great ponderous self-righteousness. That's our society. Anyway, if you want to see more of our analysis of that, then please support us at feedthebadger.com/support. And today we're apparently going into the grooming part of psychoanalytic feminism. So yay!
Because that's always a part.
Yeah, keep your vomit bags ready at the ready as we enter the dark side of feminist sexuality. Side. The darker side. Well, yes, I guess it only gets darker from here, folks. And yes, we all decided to let these women have access to our children. So that's a thing we did. Okay, should we just start?
Yeah, let's go ahead and go ahead, Tildir, go ahead.
Yes, let's move out of the penumbra that we've been living under, and let's just go full umbral. Let's just get right on in there.
Yeah, forget the pretense.
What I am going to say is what we're going to do while we are going to be going through this, because there is the psychoanalytic nature of this and their obsession with Freud, I am going to remind people once again of what we are actually doing by, of course, quoting from feminist academia here. Phallic effect, or why men's rights activists have feelings. I have mentioned this one before. This was the men's rights activists are in opposition to societal problems that disproportionately affect men because of castration anxiety and fear of being anally penetrated. Well, the other important part of that paper is that without having a phallus as guarantor, because of course you've been castrated, the only reason that men are using these affective utterances of victimhood and all of that is as a means of constructing a new masculine phallus that they can insert into the conversation of gender politics, gender equality, feminism more broadly, and grow this giant metaphorical phallus to take up more space of that conversation. And that is feminist academia's description of the men's rights movement, of men's rights activists, and so that's what we're going to be doing here today. So I would just like to say, Alison, I think you need to stop inserting your ever-increasingly enlarging penis into everything, just discussions, just stop.
No.
I think we call it a she-ness.
Oh, God. That is how, and people wonder where the replicatability crisis came from. It came from this crap.
Yep. But this phallic effect, or why men's rights activists have feelings, it is by Allen, Jonathan A. Allen. It was published in 2015. And of course, this psychoanalytic feminism that we're going through now, which makes big use of Freud and all of that sort of stuff, this is from the Blackwell Encyclopedia of Sociology, which is published in 2007.
I'd just like to say
That's the development of this.
I've completed World Revolving. I finished it. Oh, it was on slow song. Never mind. I was going to say my sheeness is now enormous, but I was on an easier setting. So there you go.
All right. Well,
anyway, keep going.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Tilda. You were saying?
No, that was it. I just wanted to make sure that the tone of this live stream was suitably set by my inappropriate penis jokes. And I would like to suggest that is as high as the brow is probably going to be. It is going to be a lot worse, and that is not going to be on my part here. That's going to be just the paper, because of course.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, of
well,
course
I mean, we're going into the feminist justifications for why they should have access to the developing sexuality of elementary school kids. So it's always going to be feeling slightly disgusting.
It's the destruction of the family unit that they're looking for.
Oh, okay, all right, but that's
what it's about. That's what all of it is about. Because of course you've got to go back to Jean-Paul Sartre and Simone de Beauvoir, who considered the family to be a bourgeois construct which needed to be destroyed because, of course, they were feminist and socialists and all of that stuff. Interesting side note of people for that. If you want to know where that ends, someone who was quite a big fan of theirs, read a lot of their stuff, was Pol Pot. As in Khmer Rouge, genocide guy. And of course, if you know about more of the sort of socialist stuff that influenced them and the need for the destruction of everything in society so they can form their new socialist man and all of that stuff, Frantz Fanon, Wretched of the Earth, similar thing. Quite enjoyed all those people. Remember, revolution is not this quiet thing that you just do peacefully through academic and intellectual means. No, revolution reeks of blood, knives, and red-hot cannonballs. You must rise up and throw off the chains of your oppressor, sit in his chair, eat at his table, sleep in his bed, preferably with his wife. That is a quote, by the way.
There you go.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Okay, so let's, first of all, I got a super chow from Laptop 215, gives us $5 and says, I think it's pretty cool that you have a custom avatar for Beat Saber, actually. Thank you, Laptop. All right.
Oh,
and
I've had it for a while.
What?
I've had it for a while.
Yeah, you've had it for at least a year or so, maybe longer.
No, I'm more like 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. But thank you for noticing. I appreciate it. It is cool.
All right.
I just want to say that I've been reading about another wolf in a completely different context. He was the head of, might have been the entire Stasi, but the intelligence apparatus of Russia during the Cold War. And his claim to fame is that he was, he says he was the father of sexpionage. Yeah, sexpionage. So he ran the honey traps and the Romeos that got all the secrets from the West. And what's really interesting is that this wolf was literally exploiting human pair bonding, which is the very thing that this wolf that we're talking about right now is denying exists. But anyway, that was just like a weird little aside. Let's get into it.
Okay.
Delay no longer.
Yeah, let's get into the grooming section of this. Okay. The development of a person's sexuality and romantic desires also begins at an early age. Many theorists recognize that children have the potential for bisexuality during the pre-oedipal stage of their lives. All right, what is the pre-oedipal stage of their lives? Does anyone know the answer? Quiz? Pre-oedipal? What is that?
I do, but you want me to tell you?
Yeah, I want to know. Yeah, we're informing people
about
what this
is. The audio.
I'm pretty sure they do, but it's basically the stage in which a boy kills his father and mates with his mother, or wants to. Is that not it?
Stage.
Oh, that's before that, I guess.
Before that.
Yeah. Well, is there specific like Greek play that Freud is referencing in the pre-oedipal
Oedipal.
Oedipal stage?
I don't know. Tilda, were you going to say something?
Oh, yes, this is in the before the boy, or in some other cases, the girl wants to murder the opposing parent or murder the same sex parent to sleep with the opposite sex parent. Yeah, so we're going to be going pre that, which of course means pre-sexual desire, which of course means we're talking about children.
Yes.
As of course they mentioned earlier in this paper, they talk about the very, very early years of people's lives. So I think it was sub 3 years they mentioned before that, most of which is in the pre-socialization stage, as in the human brain is not physically developed enough, nor you physically do not have the neural capacity for any sort of learning or any sort of interaction. It's basically anything up until about 18 months. You're on pretty much evolutionary autopilot. Your brain doesn't really do very much. So they are looking at effectively that sort of stage, declaring that this is indicative of bisexuality or the potential for bisexuality. And the important part here regarding the Oedipal stuff or the pre-Oedipal stuff is, as they're going to make the case a little bit shortly, the heterosexuality or presumed heterosexuality of children when they grow up is informed by the opposite sex parent. And that's where this comes from. So basically, men treat their daughters to be straight by being attractive to them. Women teach their sons to be straight by being attractive to them. So when you're going pre-Oedipal with this, the eventual endpoint is completely disrupting that, which of course then destroys heteronormativity because people don't learn to be straight. And of course, excellent ways of doing that, which we've seen a lot of these leftist academics, etc., trying to aim for, is things like the communal raising of children, taking children away from their parents. If you're familiar with the kibbutz of Israel, you know how that ended. I know some people like to point at them and say, oh, they still exist now. Yeah, not in anywhere near the form that they did before.
How did they end?
Well, they ended because all of the children who were being taken away from their parents, because nobody knew who their parents were, there ended up being cases of child abuse, unsurprisingly, and a bunch of the children who grew up there basically grew up incredibly mentally messed up and left. Because of course they did, because there was no sort of family tie to anything like that. And, well, it was a broadly socialist experiment, and they always collapse, because as it turns out, that political system does not work. It doesn't produce anything constructive. It doesn't produce anything that actually stands together. It merely aims to undermine everything, and then somehow this socialist man Phoenix will burst forth from the capitalism that you have undermined. Of course, that never actually happens. All that happens is they increase the size of the state, and then at some point the state would eventually abolish itself, but that never happens. But anyway, that's the pre-Oedipal thing that they're getting at here. It's reducing the family unit. It's getting rid of that bourgeois notion, that bourgeois construct of the family unit, by indicating to children that, well, you're learning from your parents how to be straight, and we can abolish that. We can abolish heterosexuality, because they don't like heteronormativity either, because that's just a social construct. So get the children young, and that social construct won't be forced into their brains.
Yeah.
So you can keep children as bisexual, or they should be considered non-sexual, but no, they're really big into children being some sort of sexual that doesn't begin with the word no.
Yeah, cool. Well, like I said, this is going to be an excuse for why these women get access to people's kids, and everybody was okay with it, which just baffles me. And I want to point out something. This is the framework that ended up pushing out honest research into human sexuality and pair bonding, because there's all kinds of endocrinology studies, hormonal studies, and related to evolutionary psychology, and they got destroyed. The fempire attacked, and they destroyed the careers of anybody who wanted to look at human sexuality, men and women, the relationship between the two of them in terms of evolutionary factors and actual physical things like hormones and endocrines and like cascades of hormones and stuff. And this is what we prioritized. This is the self-knowledge that we decided upon. A bunch of women on a foundation, Freudian foundation, which has already been discredited, right? Using a Freudian foundation to push the notion that we should take children away from their children so that they can be raised as perfect sex slaves for billionaires. No, sorry, I went a little, I skated into some weird territory there, but let's continue.
Well, you've got to remember from what we mentioned last time that women's opinion is science. Don't forget that from the Defining Patriarchy book. Interestingly of note, I do want to get back to the paper, but there's so many interesting things to talk about. Concerning things like actual data and information, obviously there was that split sort of in the 70s where you basically ended up with sociology on one side and sociobiology on the other side. Well, sociobiology is the one that actually makes sense because it has empirical data behind it, which is why the feminists and the sociologists don't like it. Well, there was an interesting article which was written 2 years ago as of tomorrow, so February 28th, 2024. You can find it on some Substack. It's called Personal Drama in Academic Peer Review, and this is the second particular story. Data be damned, perceptions trump data. And this was a guy who was submitting a peer-reviewed piece for something in the Journal of Sports Medicine. And it was regarding male and female, just general participation in sports and sports research in general, because men are more likely to engage in those things than women. And one of the, obviously, when you send things off like this for peer review, what happens is you send it in, you pick a journal, you send it into a journal, you'll get the editor of the journal or one of the editors of the journal who will either just desk reject you out immediately out the gate, and that's normally because they'll look at your paper and say, it's not for the right journal, go submit somewhere else or something like that. And after that, they'll pass it on to a certain number of peers. If they say, okay, we're going to look at it, well, they'll send it on to other people for review. And obviously when you get the review back, some people, they'll either just green light it or they'll send it back with notes, and those notes are things that you're supposed to improve. Now, we've known that there are problems with this in general. Sometimes people do get notes back from people that do just say things like, hey, I wrote a paper on this subject, perhaps you should cite it. Wink, wink. Basically the academic version of, nice shop you've got here, would be a shame if, etc. But this guy actually received from his fifth reviewer on this. The reviewer was not happy with this guy's notion that women are in fact not being underserved in sports science, despite their underrepresentation as population. They were in fact being served either proportional to or greater than. And reviewer 5 stated, and this is a direct quote from their review of this peer-reviewed piece, "Data be damned, I know women are understudied and you will not convince me otherwise. Perceptions trump data." And that is a peer in the Journal of Sports Science. Just literally telling someone, hey, you found something that goes against my a priori assumption or my ideological worldview on this particular topic. I refuse to peer review your paper because it proves me wrong.
Yep.
Yeah, not at all
And
surprising.
this is our academia, which is why academia is a total joke.
Okay, so let's get back to the paper.
Mm-hmm.
Through the combination.
Sorry for the derail, but it's interesting, and I will try and avoid doing so from now on.
Yeah,
No,
no,
it's
it's all right.
fine.
No, I suspect we'll be doing it. It's okay.
I suspect the derailing will be persistent and
Yeah.
unavoidable. I mean, I want to talk about all the endocrine findings in like pair bonding and how it is completely opposite to feminist theory and even hookup culture. But that's probably a conversation for another day.
That's because you're in the white male frame, Alison. You don't understand.
I'm not in anybody's frame, dude.
No, you're in the white male frame, according to feminists.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I'm in the white male frame, except nobody is pulling this stuff together, as far as I can tell. Everybody's in their own little their own little field. But anyway, let's go. Let's continue.
All right. So I got another super chow. I'll read it and then I'll continue the article, okay? Konoko's evil twin gave us $5. Thank you, Konoko's evil twin. And he says, "No, you altered the Badger-chan animation to exclude the bouncing booby action. I liked it. You should be proud of a job well done and show off your artwork after you put the work into those animated avatars. I look forward to the animated avatars for Hannah, Karen, and the two mics. Please reinstate the original version of Badger-chan." Wait, the two mics. Oh, if you watch the HBR talk, I already have an animated one for Hannah, Mike, Lauren, and even the guest. I gave him an animated avatar. So yeah, but thank you, Konoko's evil twin. It's okay if you want to see the full size Badger-chan one. Come to the fundraisers. That's where she resides.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I am insulted. Is my rack not good enough for you?
No, you have one. You're doing it right now. He should be able to see it. Actually, it's one of my favorites. It's the teal deer one. I also have a teal deer one inside of Space Marine armor, but it seems a little like, no, I don't know, like not quite relevant to this kind of discussion. All right.
Okay.
Anyway, through the combination of parenting and the development of boys' masculinity and girls' femininity, they are socialized to be heterosexual. A young girl's relationship to her father is an essential element in her heterosexual development. In essence, she is competing with her mother for her father's attention. Well, that's no. Isn't it like what? The attention that a daughter gets from the father and the mother gets from her husband are not the same kind. But never mind. I think you guys know that. But they're treating it like it's a competition. Okay. Due to her father's emotional and often physical absence, she remains emotionally attached to her mother, never completely leaving her. As boys move from their pre-oedipal to the oedipal stage, they develop a sense of sexual or romantic love for their mothers, partially due to their physical otherness. As they enter the oedipal stage, there is a realization that they cannot compete with their father for their mother's attention. Therefore, they begin to emotionally separate from their mothers. All right. So I'm pretty much convinced that these people write this stuff because they want to diddle kids, and they just have to like create an entire, discipline of education to justify them wanting to diddle kids. That's what I think. That's just me. I don't know. I don't consider myself super intelligent, but that's what my gut says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, why this obsession with children and their sexuality?
Freud is just a good way to get to them. That's what they're doing. This is all Freud, right? This is what they're using. It's Freud and Lacan, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it starts to feel a little bit disturbing, this obsession.
No,
you're not going to get
chills
an
up
argument.
my spine. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, you're not going to get an argument from me. That's the first place I went. I knew that this was going there.
Yeah.
I knew it would give those creepy feelings.
Okay.
Now, it does, of course, you can actually expand this a little further. I suppose it's somewhat with the benefit of hindsight a little bit. You'll notice here they talk about, so basically a woman becomes unattainable for the man, and so they move away from that particular woman. It's just sort of interesting that they're phrasing it in that way. There was a point which I wanted to expand upon there, and it just seems to have vanished out of my brain. It's rather annoying.
Was it about the pre-oedipal, post-oedipal, the thing about attention given to the parents? Like, as boys realize they develop a sense of sexual or romantic love for their mothers, and when they enter the oedipal stage, they realize they cannot compete with their father for their mother's attention. So they begin to emotionally separate from their mothers.
Yes, that was it. That was it. The emotionally separate from their mothers part. It's basically, if you wanted to phrase it this way, as a lot of feminists do, they like to talk about how, for instance, society teaches boys to be independent and whatnot, and this is why, girls become more, they just fail more because they never develop this independent, competitive, etc. This is, again, that's kind of an outgrowth of this, as you can see. So here, because boys can't fuck their mothers because their fathers are fucking their mothers, those boys have to learn to be independent. And of course, if boys get independent, they're going to end up achieving other things in their life as they grow up. Because, now that is going to be considered an unfair advantage in these ways. It's like, I think you've mentioned it many times on Honey Badger Radio before. Basically, society puts these burdens on men and then complains when men carry those burdens and end up out succeeding women because they've had to do all of this self-improvement. They've had to do all that building and that work on themselves. But basically the feminist position is, well, you've done all of that work on yourself, but you shouldn't have any benefit or recognition of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like men are basically tasked to, or like put in a situation where they have to basically like strengthen themselves and prepare themselves and work hard and do everything they need to do because there's nobody really helping them. And then they do that and then become stronger as a result. And then feminists say, why are you so strong? It's not fair.
Yeah.
But you did this to them. Like, you made them this way,
Yeah. And this is basically giving them one into being able to say that this starts happening when they're children, which is, of course, another reason why they have to be separated from their parents. And, of course, you can also then make the point, well, why do we have to separate children from their parents in general? Well, if you do it to both of them, then both the daughters and the sons will be separated. So they both become stronger and more independent and able to function. Almost like they could become a new person. Almost like they could then become revolutionary.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, that is another form of exploitation of children. It's exploiting them to become pawns and foot soldiers in your revolutionary army instead of developing their own independence.
Well, because they have no sense of family or anything like that, then of course they end up losing senses of things like me, my community, my nation, etc. They become isolated from that. So it's another reason that works very nicely. Because of course it removes xenophobia and all of that stuff. Because there's no xeno. There's no oikos or xenos.
Yeah, except for people who don't believe, who don't want to sit in the pod and eat the bugs. Then that's okay. That's okay to consider not yourself and worthy of being destroyed.
Well, they're not human. They actively choose evil within this framework because everything's a social construct. So if you don't think the right good thing or the left good things that they think, that's because you've chosen not to know it. If you're ignorant of that or you have no opinion of it, you've chosen to be ignorant or have no opinion, which means you're just as bad as people who actively choose it, which means anything that isn't them is a being evil by choice. That's how they justify it within that framework.
Of course, and a war based on conscience is not the worst kind of. It's a civil war based on two competing camps with different beliefs, different sense of conscience. That's not the most unbelievably horrific war you could possibly ask for. But I'm guessing they'll love it. They'll have their child soldiers who don't know anything better, who have no life but this conflict that they've been born into. Lovely utopia. This is being sketched out here. I'm looking at my you made me a chibi. That's really cute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of makes you a little less threatening when you're angry, but okay. Yeah. So this draws them closer to males, thus making the separation less painful and important to their male identity. This process reinforces the sexual and familial divisions that the children witness from birth. Boys and girls. Oh, did you want to say something? No? Okay. Boys and girls adopt their fathers' and mothers' roles. Thus, boys join a larger collective group of males who in turn dominate women, whereas girls remain close to their mothers, remaining on the margins of society, being ruled by men. Wow, that escalated quickly. Wow, all of a sudden. Oh, man. Okay. So should I just keep going? Unless you guys want to say anything about that sentence? No? Okay.
It's just continuing with what they said, in the very first paragraph.
Yeah.
Men have this inherent need. Well, where did the inherent need come from? Because they're raised within a society. because they live in a society. So what do we have to do? Yeah, okay, we know how that ends. I've said it enough times.
Yeah, I think we've definitely done that. Okay. When entering into romantic and or sexual relationships, men and women seek different things, often due to the separateness created from the construction of masculinity and femininity. So then the theory is that masculinity and femininity are not, they are separate, like, I don't know, isolated, like atomized identities that because of patriarchy never shall the two meet, and because of that women only know femininity because they're forced into it, and men only know masculinity because they're socialized into it, I guess. Women desire
these things are constructs. There is nothing biological about them within this framework. So even though we know that there are biological bases for things like sexual attraction, even if you go by studies of things like waist to hip ratio on women and shoulder to waist ratio in men, these things, you find them, they're cross-cultural, they're cross-ethnic boundaries, they're cross-political boundaries, cross-economic boundaries. Even if you want to say, oh, all those people have been inculcated with that patriarchal propaganda of things like pornography and whatnot. Well, okay, let's just do it with congenitally blind people. We've done that. They still have the same preference for the, I think it was 0.7 waist to hip in women and I want to say 1.2 or 1.1, something like shoulder to waist in men. When you have all of that stuff pointing in the same direction, and obviously the congenitally blind people confirmed that as well, it's like you're looking at something there that is not socially constructed at that point. It crosses so many different kinds of society and is in a bunch of people who literally cannot be like visually told these are the numbers that you should aim for. It's just being done by adjustable mannequins and touch. Now, I mean, I guess you could argue, as these people no doubt would, oh, well, they were told that men are supposed to have broad shoulders. They were told women are supposed to be curvy. Well, yeah, but why didn't they just pick the most ones? Then why didn't they pick the super stimulus? Why did they pick the stimulus that just so happens to be the one that everyone else goes to as opposed to the most extreme? Because you'd think if it was, oh, you're just being told this, you'd go for the biggest one, surely, because it's super stimulus. But no, they don't. And that points to underlying something.
Yeah.
I'm keeping all of my bonding architecture autism in check during this conversation. I want head pats for that.
Okay.
I could talk to the next half hour of what I've found and how what we're listening to is completely counter to reality on every level. And this is the architecture, the hormonal architecture for pair bonding is in humans. Attraction, yes, but also pair bonding for humans is so totalizing that it's ridiculous that this was ever entertained as scientific. Like what this woman is spouting is just absolute nonsense. And ironically, I've heard more intelligent things to say about pair bonding from Christians than feminists. Is that ironic? I guess that probably isn't ironic, because we're talking about a culture and a religious corpus that has a lot of experience with maintaining a civilization. But anyway, I won't go any further into it unless asked. So let's keep reading.
Well, you can jump in, whatever. Okay, so I'll try and read some more because I kind of want to know like how they justify all of this madness. So women desire completeness, intimacy, an end to emptiness, and therefore they seek men for completeness. Men remain uncomfortable with intimacy, often criticizing women for their emotions, thus reinforcing their position as dominant and separate from women.
That's it. I got to get in here. I got to correct this. This is absolutely 100% wrong. And anybody who's followed this show knows that. Which sex is more likely to kill themselves after a pair bond is broken? All right, so this is nonsense, even just from the level of those statistics. And what's actually happening is the way that men pair bond is being interrupted by the particular social landscape that feminism has created. Like feminism actually, okay. Feminism puts men in a state of high cortisol, which impedes pair bonding. And the reason why feminism puts men into a state of high cortisol is because it's a constant attack on their identity, a constant low-level undermining of men's status in society, which, if you look at the literature, is precisely what you need to do to keep men in a state of constant cortisol. And state of constant cortisol makes men who are avoidant, don't attach. So this is something that feminism itself is constructing and not observing. And then okay, I'll just leave it at that. Let's keep going. This is just it's driving me nuts. This is what I'm hearing.
It's actually, I'm sorry, a not insignificant amount of my work is around sociobiology anyway, so I also get annoyed by this. So of course, when you talk about the cortisol thing, you have to deal with the fact that there's two main systems of stress that people have. There's the adrenaline system and the cortisol system. So you've got the adrenaline, which is the short, sharp one, goes up, leaves the body within about an hour. Cortisol levels peak. They take about, it's a few minutes to peak, but then they remain consistently elevated. And cortisol levels remain elevated for pretty much anything up to 24 hours after a particular event. I think the half-life of it is, I want to say 12 hours off the top of my head, something like that. So it's a very long-term stress response. So when you keep people in high stress, they end up with this relentless cortisol thing. Now, cortisol in the body is quite when you have too much of it in your body, it ends up being quite destructive. Your body removing it ends up causing inflammatory problems because it just causes inflammation throughout your body. And more interestingly and importantly, it's one of the things that I'm just going to say the process of oxidation of it can cause telomere damage. It's supposed to be telomere. I always call it telomere because that's what my teacher pronounced it. So I'm just...
I see what you did there.
Well, no, it's the fact that it's like one of my teachers used to pronounce it that way. It's like it took me ages to say efficacy instead of efficacy because I had a teacher and he was French, and I guess when he said efficacy instead of something being effective, he was phrasing efficacy as efficacy because it was like as in something being efficient. So I just said it like that, even though it was wrong because teacher. And it wasn't until I got on the internet and people were like, that's wrong, stop being a dumbass, because in real life people are too polite to do that. Cortisol levels being constantly raised can actually cause telomere damage. Now, telomeres are in your cells. You've got your nucleus, and inside your nucleus you've got this little spirally gunked up lump of DNA in there, the helix of DNA. Now, your DNA basically has a bunch of junk sequences on the end of it. So you have a cell, you've got basically the necessary strand of DNA for that cell to function, and then you've got these things on the end called telomeres, which is basically just kind of repeating sequences of that DNA. It's, for the most part, it's just junk that's just there. And anytime your cell splits, it goes through that meiosis process, it splits itself. Telomeres get shortened. Now, telomeres don't get shortened consistently based on just the cell splitting. There's a bunch of other things that can affect it as well. Cortisol and high stress levels is one of them. It actually makes the telomeres degrade faster during that process. So what you're going to be looking at when you're doing that is basically prematurely killing people, because once a cell once the nucleus of that cell, once the DNA in there loses all of the telomeres and it goes down to that single point, it can't split anymore. So, of course, then the cell just lives out the rest of its existence and dies. It can't reproduce. So this is why chronic high stress things like having your cortisol levels constantly elevated by constantly being in this high stress on guard situation, which feminism is causing for men by constantly attacking masculinity, constantly attacking men, just like you are wrong, you are everything that is wrong in the world. This is causing this increased stress level, which is causing the increases in anxiety, the increases in withdrawalness, this, oh, men are checking out, they're failing to launch and all of this stuff. Well, it's because they're in a high stress scenario, and that is actually just going to start killing people eventually if they don't pull the trigger themselves. you're going to start having a bunch of problems. And though some of them, I wouldn't be surprised if you started seeing problems with, like, perhaps increased genetic conditions in the future because of that sort of damage. It wouldn't be a surprise, but you're definitely going to start seeing upticks, and, well, I'd argue that you already are, of long-term chronic conditions in young people. If you look at young to old people, young people seem to be getting chronic conditions at higher rates than old people did when they were in their age range. And I know some people like to sort of say, oh, the microplastics and all this stuff in diets and the food is fake, especially in America. Yes, that's all true. But I think you're also seeing the effect of something other than that. And I wouldn't be surprised, given the amount of rampant male-hating propaganda that children are exposed to. Because remember, Adolescence, that UK TV show, that was a documentary, according to our Prime Minister and a bunch of our MPs. And
the entire Parliament. Yeah.
And then Parliament, and that children need to be subjected to that. They need to see that all the time and be constantly told, hey, are you a boy? You're a danger to all of the girls around you. You're a risk to all of those. What is that going to do to children when you start increasing their stress levels? And when, of course, you put a growing organism, a developing organism, like a child, into a constant high stress scenario, they end up with stunted growth and all sorts of other problems. Now, there's actually another thing that is very interesting regarding that. I'll do it really quickly. Children are being increasingly isolated in society, particularly boys. Now, there's a very interesting problem that happens with this, and it comes from social isolation, not only mental isolation, but physical isolation as well. Children basically need to be touched, they need to be interacted with, they need to be played with. The oxytocin that is released when people physically touch with each other is actually very important. And there's a condition which is called psychosocial dwarfism, or socially induced dwarfism. And this is something that we've known about for a number of decades. When you get children, you give them everything that they need to grow, suitable nutrition, suitable exercise, suitable sleep, all of that stuff, but you don't touch them, you don't play with them, you don't interact with them. They develop a short stature. And so that sort of gives you an idea again of how this high stress stuff is going to start affecting people. And I would not be surprised if you start doing all of this to children, you start following the advice of this sort of paper. You're going to start seeing, like I said, I think an uptick in chronic problems in young people that you shouldn't be seeing.
Yeah. Plus, if it's affecting the stature of boys, then it's actually going to be hurting their chances of finding a mate.
They're romantic.
Because women are measuring the worth of a man based on his height.
Yeah.
So, all right. Yeah, this stuff is monstrous. All right, both Freud and Lacan. Oh, they're actually just going to say it. I didn't even realize it was in the next sentence. Both Freud and Lacan provide a valuable framework for understanding the mechanics of sexual desire. Freud focused on his analysis on the biological foundations of sexuality and placed the phallus as central to sexual desire and sexual difference rather than constructions of masculinity and femininity. Therefore, men and women place the phallus at the symbolic center of sexual behavior and leave their own personal understandings and desires for themselves to a level of internal fantasy. Lacan concentrates on sexual behavior as the desire for unity between men and women, moving beyond biological understandings of sexuality. Men and women are sexual together in order to fulfill fantasies that are culturally produced, but not a result of being male or female, due to essentialist definitions. This concept is then extended to understanding society as constructed as a phallocentric patriarchy, which represses female sexuality, particularly female desire, thus reinforcing women's position as other, remaining defined in opposition to men's desire. Anybody want to say anything on that? Jump in there.
Arousal is not a learned behavior. Sorry, sexual arousal is not a learned behavior. It's something that is implicit to humans.
Also, what the heck is this feminist doing talking about female sexual desire? Feminism has been waging a war against female sexual desire for men for 70 years, to the point where it's like literally in an arms war with romance. specifically dark romance. And I won't get into it, but essentially dark romance is women trying to metabolize the feminist attempt to pathologize female sexuality, sexual interest in men. And so it's like the feminism is literally, if it had a button and said, okay, what's the one thing you'd like to eradicate, feminists? It probably would be female sexual desire for men. They fucking loathe it on an ideological level. So what the hell is she getting off saying, phallocentric phallocracy? Yo, you're talking about what adult female sexual desire for adult men.
Okay.
Well, that is what getting rid of the phallocentric patriarchy would do. Because if society, which they want to overthrow, is phallocentric, and women happen to quite enjoy penises, as it turns out, you need to get rid of that. And what a surprise was it that when you had the free love movement and all that stuff, female masturbation and masturbatory aids exploded. This is why there's that other certain irony that there's a lot of feminist outrage about things like sex bots and men using them, when it's just sort of an irony. It's like, right, so for the last 50 years, we've been having disembodied penises, millions of them on shelves around in shops around the world, and this is an act of empowerment. And that's what, that's the woman fantasy, that's the woman desire. And when men want to do something similar to that, they, as it turns out, want to construct an entire human and work to replicate a human with a personality and moving and something that's going to actually imitate desiring them for who and what they are, as opposed to a disembodied organ. It's a very interesting difference, and I don't think it's one that the people who are making those objections are ready to face as to what it says regarding the difference between men and women.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Very
I got a couple of super chats I should read before I go on, because they're starting to stack up. So Kanokos evil twin gives us another $5. He super chatted us earlier. And he says, head pats for Alison, the cutest honey badger on earth. Your self-control is hereby publicly acknowledged. Hannah would be proud. And then Great Indoors, it's only because of the cartoon. Great Indoors, no, I'm kidding, Alison, gives us $5 and says, to what degree has Freud's Oedipus complex theory ever been proven? Because I have the feeling that it belongs to the same realm as patriarchy theory. Or is this just my repressed ego trying to come up with excuses? Pick me, mommy, stab, stab. I mean, I don't think, I don't know. I don't think that, I think Freud's a hack, personally. But
the irony is
I thought that had been debunked for a while, in fact.
Yes. So they've built this entire edifice on a foundation that's been debunked. Okay, about the only thing that's left of Freud is psychoanalysis.
Psychoanalysis.
Yeah, that's it. Like, just the process of talking to a person about the things that have happened to them. Right, that's it. Everything else has been debunked. I don't know about the Thanatos instinct. The last time I called it the Thanos instinct, and someone jumped down my throat. The Thanatos instinct. I mean, I found that really intriguing, but I don't think that's really common in any of the people who have built on his theories. They don't go for that one because I guess it's not sexy. Even though when I read it, I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So the one theory that I think, or hypothesis that I think Freud did that actually has merit, nobody talks about, and feminists have built this corpus around phallocentrism based on something that's been discredited. So this is like multiple layers of bullshit. Like, this is a shit fuck stack of
sandwich.
No, a shit fuck stack of epic proportions. You get the song, you get a glass bowl and you put some shit in the glass bowl, and you get another glass bowl and you put some fuck in the glass, and then you stack them. This is a shit fuck stack. That's
you have a really strange concept of what is a healthy, well-rounded breakfast in Canada.
Yeah,
that's all I'm going to say to that.
Well, as long as you put real maple syrup on it, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, it's founded on a foundation that has been discredited, and it's a bunch of nonsense about men and women. Like, it's just invented. This is just she just sat down one day and said, what can I conjecture? What can I say that's extreme? And feminists have actually, like, there is a statement in their corpus where they laid out their plan. They said they were going to define men and women and the relationship between men and women in order to benefit feminism. And what benefits feminism is gaining political power and money. So this is all a construct. Like, everything that we're listening to is a construct to hit buttons so that these women can gain political clout and money. So they're actually just beating on men's tolerance, men's willing to bend for women's bullshit, men's concern that they might be a threat to women. That's a big one. That's the button feminists keep hitting, because it's like a rat with a lever, and the lever releases pellets. It's all that's happening here. You just imagine Andrea Dworkin in a cave with whiskers in a cage with whiskers and a tail, and she knows every time she says something horrific about men throw her pellets of food, which she then siphons up into her little rat gullet. That's what's going on with all of the feminists. And the great horror is that nobody said, what the hell are we doing? Why are we giving these Medusas power over the most fundamental relationships in our society? That's what's really astounding. Why was there no point where we were like, wait, no. If men used rape as a means to uphold society, then society would look vastly different than it does. Therefore, this is wrong. Therefore, you ladies, you need to be quiet. You need to be muzzled. Go into the sandwich mines with you. But that never happened.
Mm-hmm.
No, instead we need to we have these treatises by these women explaining to us how it's completely legitimate and morally self-righteous why they should be able to put their ideological fingers up our children's brains. Right? That's just okay. All right, I'm done with my little rant.
Okay.
I know it must sound really strange coming from the
No. This is, I mean, like, I think that's just kind of hitting on what's really going on here. I mean, obviously, there's no real science or desire to like make the world better through this stuff. It's just, it's gross and predatory. But anyway, so where were we? Oh yes, we live in a phallocentric society, patriarchy that is, which represses female sexuality, particularly female desire, thus reinforcing women's position as other, remaining defined in opposition to men's desire. Irigaray, that's I guess another thinker, challenges Lacan's theory and his central focus on the penis and definition of the clitoris as a little penis. Instead, she notes that women experience pleasure everywhere, forcing a shift in the analysis and placing women in an equal position to men rather than remaining defined in relationship to men. So you notice how like you have like they brought up like three different people so far, right? We got Freud, we got Lacan, and we got this person named Irigaray. And there are probably going to be other ones. Kristeva is another one. Notice that all these people are already wrong, but they're just debating on like the nuances. They're all wrong about like human nature. They're all starting from a false premise of like everything is socialized, and they're just disagreeing on like whether or not it's, you know, the women's desire is repressed or if it's everywhere or whatever. But you see what I'm saying? It's like the entire conversation is already taking place, I would say, at least not entirely in reality, if not like completely outside of reality. But they all disagree, guys. So this is really, it's actually a battlefield of ideas, because all of these people, despite the fact that they're wrong, are all like different wrong. They're different, you know? So they fight with each other, and that's exciting stuff. You know what I'm saying? Am I wrong? Yeah. Go ahead.
The clown college produces robust debate, Brian.
Exactly.
You have to understand, like Bozo is really going at it with his horn. And
But you see, but my point is that whoever wins this discussion is just going to be celebrated, and they're going to write papers and articles, and they're going to do interviews, and they're going to have books. But they're wrong. Like, they're still, because they're. I mean, I think they're just starting from an awful premise, and
yes.
so, but the premise is what has to be accepted. You can't begin to be a part of the academic discussion if you don't accept the premise. So this is how you get into like the situation where we have like feminist literature and feminist academic rigor studies and peer-reviewed papers, and everyone looking at it is all in the same. They're all in the same cult. They just differ on like whether, to use like the I don't know, like the Chris dagger for the sacrifice, or a spoon, or maybe a spatula. Like, they're just disagreeing on how to go about like what the nuances of their cult is, right? Do you pull out the brain or the heart? But like, this is why we can't get anywhere, because the whole thing is run, like, it's all run on a false premise, and by retards, to be fair. I mean, I don't know what else to call them. So I don't know. I just had to rant about that.
They're
a little
brilliant.
bit.
No, it's fine. Grant away. How could I possibly complain about your ranting? They're brilliant at extorting stuff from people through lies. I mean, you got to give them that, but they are lies. These are all very carefully manufactured lies around human nature in order to trigger the instincts to do what they want them to do. Right? You tell men that they're dangerous to women, and men will turn themselves inside out to prove that's not so. It's like a woman will just walk up to some dude, maybe a millionaire, and he'd be like, I think that you're a danger to women, and if you don't give me, a couple $1 million, I might tell people. And what's his first thing he does? Just opens up his wallet, because that's his instinct. But it's also, they have the ability to blackmail people on a reputational level. It's a gigantic, pervasive, institutionalized grift. And again, none of these things are true. And honestly, if you really wanted to look at how male and female sexuality and pair bonding and how men and women relate, you should start on the level of endocrinology and how all of that stuff is structured. Because on that level, every single one of the feminist assertions about men and women and how they relate is wrong on on a chemical level. It is wrong. 100% wrong. If you want a reasonable approach to how men and women bond and relate and who they are, you're better off with any religion. Any religion has a better understanding of these things than feminism. So literally, the central moral organizing force of our society has gone backwards when it comes to understanding those essential fundamental relationships. A man's relationship to himself, to other men, a woman's relationship to herself, to other women, and their relationship to each other and their children. We have gone backwards. We're like speed running regression when it comes to understanding. Okay, even Islam is better.
Oh, but
even
Alison, we're the grifters. I just bought my third house this week with my grift money. We're the grifters. I thought you knew. All right. Anyway.
Only people with a pathological relationship to the truth could do what we do. Maybe not pathological,
I guess. And is it really all that wrong that the clitoris is a little penis?
Well, I mean, it is anatomically wrong, but it's, I mean, that's the other thing. If you want to talk about female desire, maybe you should have a working understanding of female anatomy. A lot of feminists don't, because they compare female genital mutilation to male genital, or they say that female genital mutilation is worse than circumcision. Well, the instant you do say that, you're expressing complete ignorance over male and female sexual anatomy. But I mean, that's another side. I mean, we could talk for days about what feminists are ignorant of. Days, weeks, even possibly months. Actually, we've been doing this for 12 years, so obviously 12 years. We could talk about what feminists are ignorant of. It is a subject with absolutely no bottom. All right, you want to read some more? Tildeer, did you want to
Yeah,
come
I'm going to
in and say
read some
something?
more. Or did Teal Deer want to say anything? Or
We have reading to do. We must get it
all
done.
right, let's do that. The centrality of the phallus extends to the organization of society. Psychoanalytic feminism describes society as representative of men's egos, their sense of self-importance, and desire for immortality. Therefore, structures such as buildings, machines, bridges, and towers are made to outlast them while also replicating shapes that are most pleasing to them. Oh, here we go again. If we were going to do this for women, what would it be? Like caves? Like, will we just live underground? Is that what she wants for us to be Morlocks? Like,
yeah, we
instead
wouldn't
of
have
building buildings?
skyscrapers. We'd have earth scrapers, I guess.
Okay. Rambam 3000 gives us a super chat for £2 and says clitoris is literally Greek for little hill. It's an interesting bit of trivia. Konoko's Evil Twin gives us $5. Again, thank you, Konoko's Evil Twin. Says, feminist scholarship, fiction source falsehoods asserted about reality by utterly self-serving liars that are willfully ignorant and willfully insane. Yeah. All right. Social systems are...
Well, I was just going to point something out.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so men replicate shapes that are most pleasing to them. That's why all buildings are shaped like boobs.
Of course.
Apparently, because it's just funny. It's like most pleasing to them. Obviously, they're going for they build giant towers because penises, because overcompensation. These are the same feminist people who will talk about men being dangerous because of like latent homophobia and unaddressed homophobia and subconsciousness and all of this stuff. And the reason that you're scared of, anal penetration is because like repressed homosexuality and all of this sort of stuff. So it's like, okay, do you really want to be going down that route, given all the other stuff that you believe about how men hate homosexuality and all that stuff? And it doesn't strike at all. And again, I come back to what are things that are most pleasing. I go back to the sex toy thing earlier. What did women make, or what was made for women, and what's being made for men? Men are attempting to reproduce an entire person. So
yeah,
I guess we know what's pleasant to them as opposed to disembodied anatomy.
Yeah, that is a little creepy. Women are just focused on whatever the partner does to their body. It's very solipsistic and narcissistic and self-focused. That is an interesting implication. All right, Brian, let's keep going.
All right. Social systems are patriarchal, maintaining maleness and masculinity as central to their structures and operations. Some areas of examination by psychoanalytic feminists include the division of labor and economic systems, science and philosophy, as well as symbols and language. They seek to understand these systems while also using psychoanalytic techniques as a method for examining the reproduction of the status quo and as a means for social change. Okay, division of labor begins in the home, with women operating as the primary caretakers in society. Men are propelled into the work world due to their sense of independence, competitiveness, and desire to achieve, which developed during early childhood. And notice the phrasing of work as propelled, like it's just like a greater thing. But go ahead, Teal dear. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, there you go. Remember what I said earlier when they were going to be like, oh, you're a child and being a boy is just an advantage because you get separated earlier. There you go. Mm-hmm. There's the payoff. I mean, the propelled into the work world, I mean, yeah, but not because of this sense of independence and all this stuff. No, it's because they want to attract women and women demand that of them. We know this, but, just ignore that. No, it's just your ego talking. It's not your desire to form a family and live a life and all of that stuff. No, it's just you being petty and egotistical.
Yep. This process produces the ideology and psychology of male dominance and denial of their dependence on women to help maintain the home, raise the children, and provide support for their needs. Yeah, because men don't recognize that women, if they're helpful, will do that. Male behavior is the norm of success. Therefore, if women have a desire to be successful in the paid work world, they are expected to act and often dress like a man. Often there is some often there is some deviation from this, but usually with unfavorable circumstances. Utilizing Marxist theory with psychoanalysis, shocker, the reproduction of mothering is viewed as the basis for the reinforcement of women's responsibilities in the domestic, largely unpaid work sphere of society. Can we just like dispel this idea that a woman's work, even if she's a stay-at-home mom, is not in fact unpaid because she's literally being housed and clothed and fed by the man's money? Like
Yeah.
outside of the satisfaction of being a wife and mother, and that he's not your boss, he's your husband. Those kids, those are your kids. That's your legacy. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, they like to ignore that. Yeah, there was a big push for this unpaid work. They've basically just had to sort of say that house and everything like that should be treated as a business effectively. And I think a bunch of that comes back to the loss of the home economy, which men gave women during the Industrial Revolution. You invented all of these wonderful labor-saving devices that meant all of these things that you had to do at home, as an actual homemaker, taking the rugs outside and bludgeoning them and taking your clothes down to the river and bashing them with rocks to remove the dirt and all of that stuff. Men just invented all of these things to give women infinite spare time so that they don't have to do that. And as it turns out, when men give women infinite spare time, the women never forgave them for doing that and decided to use all of that spare time to destroy society.
Yep.
As it turns out. Not only did women not forgive men from doing that, apparently it also drove them mad.
I think I've heard that before. Okay, let's.
All right, back to this.
Yeah.
As wives and mothers, women contribute to the continual production of people. Girls are socialized as caretakers responsible for supporting their husbands and families. Boys are socialized as workers who are responsible for activities outside the domestic arena and therefore for continual support of capitalistic production.
Right. Yeah.
What?
No,
they don't do that to attract girls?
No, apparently not. No, it's just for capitalism. That's the only reason men work. It's for capitalism. It's not because women want them to. They want to be provided for and all that stuff. Oh, yeah, no, all of this stuff is socialized. It's definitely that there's not anatomical differences and innate differences between boys and girls when it comes to anything like this. Again, we reference studies which have been done on children, especially in the pre-socialization stage. If you show faces to boys and girls, or you show interesting mechanical objects like cogs turning or things like that, the boys are more interested in things like that are mechanical, the girls are more interested in faces and things like that. If you just even look at kids play when they actually start reaching the socialization stage, the boys are into the things which are more mechanical, the girls are into things which are more social. This is not something that they're taught to do, this is something they gravitate to by themselves. If you give them a variety of things, they will just gravitate to what they want. It's the gender equality paradox, which was first mentioned in Norway. As it turns out, when you give people total freedom, gender expression actually increases. The scope actually widens because people can go for the thing that they actually want to, as opposed to what they basically have to for immediate survival. And second to this, continual support of capitalistic production. Why didn't capitalists just make everyone work?
Yeah. Why didn't Dr. Capitalism just make everybody go to work?
Yeah, because we're constantly told that capitalists are these terrible, evil people who don't give a damn about anything, only money. Why don't they make everyone work? Why did capitalists encourage people to keep reproducing? Because we're constantly told that they don't care about that and that they would actually kill everyone if they could make a profit out of it. So well, why not just have everyone work and then make infinitely more money? Just like double your money if you don't care about the people existing. Why not do that? Because, capital is the only thing that matters. But that's a contradiction in their argument, and they don't want to address that. At some point, they then have to come down to, oh, no, the capitalists do want people to live, but only a certain number of them, and therefore, at that point, they're just like conceding the argument. It's like, right, so capitalists don't only care about money, they do care about other things. Right, okay.
I just want to point out that I am doing a analysis of literature. I think I've mentioned this before, and 100%, when you give men and women a blank piece of paper, they write very different things on a structural level. So women write relationships and a relationship map in a social sphere in terms of a topology, and men write things in terms of material that they operate on. And if they read people, it's because they want to figure out the mechanism in order to take the next action to affect a particular outcome. So men and women, their cognitive function is noticeably different. And you can see it when you just give them a paper and complete freedom to do whatever they want, to think however they want with no constraints. Sort of ties back to the Nordic paradox. You give them the opportunity to think in a realm with no constraints, and you see the differences. And they're pretty stark. Again, the only two women that I've found that buck the trend are Emily Bronte, Wuthering Heights, and Ayn Rand. And Henry James and Faust. Not Faust, Proust. So those are the four who buck the trend. So I just want to put that out there. This is the fact is that men and women think differently on average.
Yeah.
And we know that this is genetic because there's another very interesting thing that has happened. We know that there's sexual dimorphism in humans. We know that sexual dimorphism is biological. Men are on average taller, they're on average larger muscle mass, all of those sorts of things. The interesting thing about sexual dimorphism in humans is that it has increased over time. So if you went back in time 500 years, men and women were more similar. Men were, everyone was kind of shorter because of lack of nutrition and whatnot. But if you look at skulls of men and women, males and females, going back in time, the male skulls are smaller and more effeminate. The women's skulls are heavier and larger. Yeah, there is still a difference in that the men are still more than the women, but the difference is less in time. So as time has gone on and we've improved the conditions and whatnot, what's actually happened is the sexes have diverged even further away than they already were in centuries past. And that speaks, of course, not only to what people find attractive in the opposite sex, but it also indicates another very important thing, and that is to whatever extent anything is social. Even if you want to say, oh, it's social that women prefer taller men, it's social that men prefer more curvy women, whatever like that. To whatever extent any behavior is social, to whatever extent any behavior in any animal is environmental, it will be genetically selected for. That is, any gene that is providing any degree of variance in that socially constructed thing, that gene will therefore be able to manifest more within the population if it provides some sort of advantage to it. And then if you tie that on to something like the sort of extension of the phenotype of animals, the way genes mesh in with the environment, you can start finding genes affecting things that you think is entirely environmental. Like an example of this is something like, okay, say you've got like, let's just use a deer population. Sure, why not? Let's stay on brand here. You have a deer population. Some of the deer have slightly lighter pelts. Some of them have slightly darker pelts. As it turns out, the ones that are lighter get hunted more because they're easy to be seen. Well, why are they easy to be seen? Well, they're lighter. Why are they lighter? Well, they spend a bit more time in the sun and then they rub themselves on some trees more. Oh, okay, well, it's environmental. They're just picking to do that, right? Well, what if we look at the genes of the animals and we find that in that circumstance, oh, actually, there's genetic variation within this population, and the ones with the lighter pelts happen to have a gene or a gene variant that encourages additional sebum production in their skin. So what's actually happening is they're sitting in the sun to dry out this excess oil, and then because they've got excess oil and more dandruff, they rub themselves on trees more. Wait, so that difference that is environmental is actually genetic. We're moving further and further away from that. So when you hunt a population like that, you're altering the genes of a population, even though the thing that you're looking for is environmental, supposedly. And this is just something that they like to avoid here. And again, it comes back to that diversion of humanity. Even if you the diversion of the sexes, so even if you wanted to say somehow everything that is attractive to people is socially constructed, well, that social construct has been genetically selected for within the species. And therefore, if there is any gene that causes that, but also any gene that contributes to that attraction, those will be reproduced more within the population. Which again points to, no, there is something inherent in this, because there has to be. There can't not be.
Yeah. I want to just, something that I noticed about this as I've been reading, and this is what I noticed about like basically all feminist writings. They treat the relationship between men and women as purely transactional. I mean, and I'm not talking about like in everyday life. I mean, like in marriages with children involved. And what's really weird about that is that it is, in by their own logic, what they're presenting is something that they would criticize as capitalist in nature. Now, maybe that's the reason why they frame it this way, so that they can criticize it and they can criticize the family and capitalism at the same time by treating a relationship between men and women as just transactional. And the thing is that that's not what love is, at least not as I understand it. And this is assuming that, you know, a man and a woman are getting together because they love each other. And maybe this is a bit of a digression, and I'm sorry if it is, but it's not a sir. Thomas Aquinas defined love as to will the good of the other. And basically it is putting your trust and faith in someone else without expecting anything in return. And that is willing the good. It is inherently sacrificial. And I think men, and the reason why I'm saying this is because I think men do this all the time, not just for women, but for each other as well. And it's not recognized for what it is. And that is not even, I mean, I'm sure that there are cases where women do it too, but it's not even something that is asked, because everything has to come out to, what do I get out of it? What do they get out of it? What do women get? You know? And I think they miss that. And I mean, that's what I think. I think that true love involves actively desiring and working towards what is genuinely good for the other person, their flourishing, their well-being, the truth, which is why I do this show, happiness in the deepest sense. Ultimately, you know, it's a selfless act. And that's the only way you can call it that. So I'm just saying that they're talking about a relationship between a woman and a man, and a woman and a man and their children, as purely transactional, where someone is benefiting and therefore someone else must be losing if there isn't like an equal exchange. And yet they use that criticism, and then they call like patriarchy a kind of capital that needs to be flattened and redistributed. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, because you're saying that they're saying patriarchy looks at everything as transactional, and that's exactly what they're doing. But the thing is that what they're saying is they are correctly interpreting that patriarchy sees everything as transactional, even though if you even spend a moment to think about it and think about what, for example, fathers will sacrifice for their children, you realize that it's utter bullshit what they're saying. But they think that they're correctly identifying, they're decoding patriarchy as a transactional. But you have to consider that these are predators that are this woman who's writing this analytic feminism. She's a predator, and not the nice kind. She's like one of those. She's more like a crocodile. No, maybe crocodiles are too nice. She's like the predator in Alien. Just everything is status, power, consumption, because she doesn't have the mammalian architecture. She doesn't understand mammals. I don't know if it's because she literally is a reptilian alien, or if she's just a psychopath, a sociopath, an extreme narcissist. But
Yeah.
only somebody like that could assert this stuff. And she does it because it gives her power over others. She's a predator, but not like the wolf predator, like a wolf, because, you know, wolves have social structures, they bond, you know, they have a very intimate and tender courtship. She's something else. She's something primal and dark. And unfortunately, instead of the peer review, instead of saying, hey, I think you're evil, they said, oh, give us more. This is great stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
Anyway, back to the article. As wives and mothers, women contribute to the continual production of people. Girls are socialized as caretakers. Oh, no, I already read that, right? I'm sorry. Experiences
I got to get in here. I got to say something.
All right,
She
all right.
wants the stolen valor of women doing this role, but at the same time, she wants to say that patriarchy forces it on women, right? And it's like, well, then you don't get the stolen valor. Right? You don't get to appeal to the fact that women have done all of these things if they were forced to by someone else. Right? That's it.
Yeah.
That's fundamentally, yeah, no, I'll stop you there. Oh, women give birth the next. No, they were forced to by patriarchy. Therefore, patriarchy has the valor of perpetuating the species. You don't get it. You don't deserve it. It wasn't your choice. Your choice is apparently abortion and hookup culture. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out. You can keep going.
No problem. All right. Experiences from the pre-oedipal and oedipal stages of life shape our conceptions of science and philosophy. Western approaches to knowledge are founded on a male worldview, a male understanding of the world where there is a desire for separation and individuation. Early psychoanalytic feminist studies sought to reveal the male bias in academics, art, philosophy, and science. Then they name a bunch of citations: Eliot Flax, Irigare, Gilligan, Kristeva. For example, Carol Gilligan studied the work of Lawrence Kohlberg in his theory of moral development, in which he concluded that girls were morally inferior. Okay, I won't touch that. Gilligan exposed the bias in his work. Kohlberg used only boys' stories in his model. She argues that both cognitive and developmental psychology are biased due to their use of male subjects to establish a standard of normality. Gilligan reformulated the theory, concluding that morality is a negotiated path where people balance self-needs and interests while caring for the other. Within this body of research of uncovering the male biases inherent within the practices and structures of science, philosophy, and the overall quest for knowledge, these scholars offer a solution through the reformulation of epistemology and metaphysics in our society. Holy run-on sentence, Batman.
Oh, good Lord. just throw the word salad at the screen. Let's see if any of it sticks. God, this isn't a thesis. This is just endless. Oh, we're oppressed, yo.
We found one guy who did a test and he only tested boys. Destroy science. Okay.
Yeah.
Of course.
That's a reasonable conclusion.
Yeah,
remember
right.
what we said yesterday, last week, you know, the theorizing patriarchy book again? Yeah, women's opinions are science because science is biased and patriarchal. This is all this. It's all the same stuff again. And how they have to undermine religion as well, spirituality. It's all got to go. That's why they talk about dualism shortly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dualistic thinking, the split between subject-object and mind-body, must be replaced by thinking that accepts differences without creating a hierarchy of superiority. This can be achieved by studying and reshaping early childhood experiences, which create and reinforce the existing system of patriarchy and dominance. Certainly, there are critiques about psychoanalytic feminism and the approaches used by its scholars. Oh, okay. So there are critiques, but we're about to dismiss them all, right? I don't know. I'm predicting. So I think we're getting close to the end of this article. Oh, I got another super chow. All right, let's do this one really quick before I get into the meat of that. Konoko's Evil Twin gives another $5. Thank you, Konoko's Evil Twin, and says, Alison, regarding the studies into revealed preferences, would Prim Reaper or Teal Deer be able to construct a survey to gather useful data on women's actual interest in men, not the heavily pushed propaganda from social media, especially like the Choose the Bear BS? Or maybe Aiden Paladin might know of some relevant past studies that could form the basis of a meta study. Young men need good information. It's damn hard to find. I mean, like the only, I mean, there should be studies, but
there should be studies.
But I don't. The thing is, the people who have the resources to conduct such studies have no interest in those findings, so they won't conduct those studies.
Useful data on what women are actually interested in men. Was that the question? Right? Yeah, we already know that. Yeah. Resources. No, that's it. It's resource provision and resource gathering. That's it. I can't remember the name of the researcher who did it, but there was one, and it took into account all sorts of things like, height, appearance, hairline, whatever the hell else. And women were always willing to sacrifice other traits, even if they said they were deal breakers like height, if the money was suitably large. So in other words, money trumped everything else, ultimately, or resource provision more generally. That was it. It really is that simple. I know that sounds horrible because people will be like, oh, so you're saying women are gold diggers and all that sort of stuff. Well, I mean, if that's what they tell you that they're interested in, I mean, what, do you want me to say no? You're not? You don't know what you want? Okay. I mean, I can, but
it's like we don't want to hear what
tell me who they are. I listen.
If it condemns women.
Yeah, well, I mean, and also it probably was somewhat ameliorated, if that's the right way of pronouncing that word, in societies where women have their own work that's productive. Like, is this? I mean, this idea that women just sort of sit there and all they produce is abortions and degrees. That's really new. Very new, and it had to have a whole bunch of narrative revolutions before it flowered into that. And one of them was this idea of the homemaker, because prior to the Hollywood in the 50s, women were productive. Like, the home was a unit of production, produced things, and the further back you go, the more things it produced, and women were responsible for that production. So in that context, if women are, and if you even look at hunter-gatherer tribes, like, women aren't doing nothing. They're usually doing quite a bit of work in terms of making sure that food is available in seasons where prey is scarcer. They're doing work to maintain the dwellings. They're doing work to gather, to do the basketry, weaving, all kinds of like domestic stuff that is really necessary for the survival of their tribe. In some cases, they're providing the majority of the calories, even though the hunters will be probably going after the prestigious food items. So it's like this is a very new situation. The complete absence of not just women being able to provide for themselves, because they can sort of do that now, but the complete absence of a female form of provision, because that's what it was in the past. This was your job, women's job. Women did it. Men didn't do it. Women did it, and it was necessary for the survival of everyone. And that's gone. And I mean, you said originally, women lost their minds. It's something I said too, but it's not, it almost in a way is not an awful thing. They lost their particular female form of provision and lost their ever-living fucking minds in the process. And it's because they don't have anything to do that ties back to who they are as women. And that's really orphaning if you think about it. So the finding that they want resources, I'm just curious what that would be in a society where women are expected, or women's families are expected to provide dowry, where women are expected to work in the home to provide. Like what would be the situation there? And then the division is, yes, men have to provide resources from their sphere, but women are providing resources from their sphere, also expected to do that. So it's more of an equal situation, unlike now, where the ideal used to be, and in some ways still is a woman just sitting on her ass, producing absolutely nothing except shit and complaints in a house that the man pays for, using equipment, dryer, vacuum, all of this stuff that he pays for, electricity, indoor plumbing, everything that he pays for. And that has never been in the history of humanity. Never. And I wonder if it's just created it's not only has it created like a very mercenary form of resource acquisition in women and also insanity, but if it hasn't also created tremendous insecurity in women. And also, and none of that is answered. So, I mean, a lot of people are. A couple of days ago, Brian did a Twitter space, and the guy who one of the guys who was talking about how women have no interest in men, and I'm like, well, maybe we could get rid of feminism. I know that's like almost maybe it's not impossible once we figure out that it's an existential crisis. Like feminism is pushing our entire society towards the brink of absolute destruction in multiple factors, not just because of men and women, but also because of its influence on commodities markets and production generally. It's pushing us to the brink of destruction. And maybe we'll wake up and be like, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't do that any further. And then if we directly start challenging it, maybe we'll see a difference in how much women actually like men. Once we get rid of feminism constantly undercutting men as women's partners and as value in and of themselves. Like we could just try it for a bit and see what happens. Because if I were to predict something, then I would predict that if you get rid of that, women's desire for men might recover along additional channels than just resources. But I could be wrong as well. Because I mean, again, if you go back far enough, women are also producing to survive. They're not lazy in hunter-gatherer cultures. They're not lazy in peasant cultures. They're not even lazy in the beginning of industrial cultures. They only start to have this sort of like associating lassitude, sloth with women in the 50s with the rise of the homemaker nonsense. So yeah. There you go. Like that's something to consider. Okay.
Okay, I got a couple
of points.
Go ahead.
Okay,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So one thing you've got to defeat not only on that ground is of feminism regarding the destruction of the unit like that, but you also now have to start defeating the tradcons. Because unfortunately, and the number of times I've watched any sort of conservative or anything like that, and they start talking about this, it's like, I want to go out and work and have my woman at home. Okay, that's not tradition. That's you literally buying into this fairy tale paradigm of modernity. You're not being in any way traditional for that. So this is why, there's sort of the observation, the tradcons or the trad cucks. I should stop calling them that, but I really struggle with it because of how they behave. They are just feminism in another form. They believe
feminism from 20 years ago or something. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, there is a major problem regarding feminism and their ability to predict and, well, just formulate marriages in general. You may remember in many, many centuries, well, not centuries, decades past, one of the big things that feminists predicted when they said, oh, if we are able to get women free of material dependence on men, You're not going to see marriages being undertaken for economic reasons, which is what is happening now. So, women need to be attached to men in order to survive. The feminist position was, once women are free, you will start seeing more marriages, relationships, cohabitations around that based on actual love, based on actually wanting to be with people because there is no economic benefit to it. And of course, what happened was the exact opposite. Women got freed from all of these reliances on men. Well, I say that given the how the welfare state goes and who is paying, on average, about 2/3 to 3/4 of the taxes being men. Well, yeah, we can see how that ended up happening. And no, it's still provision. It's just done via the state instead of an individual guy. That didn't happen. And we all know, of course, that this is basically something that seems to have just been uncovered as a result of removing that. And it does also, I want to sort of go back a little bit, point to some sort of underlying behavior on the part of men and on the part of women. When I mentioned earlier about like the resource provision that women prefer in those things which have been studied, another excellent way of just looking at self-reports of women is, what do they actually do? Like, what are they self-reporting? Well, look at the ick lists that they publish. Another slightly more objective one is when you give them things like dating apps. I don't particularly like dating apps, but they are unfortunately a good thing of just actually looking at how people behave, what they pick. Well, what does a height filter show you? Well, it's 6 foot and then it's a massive drop off. What is the requirement for income? It's 6 figures, and then there's a massive drop-off if it goes down to 5. This is what people are saying, this is what I want. Like, it's literally self-reporting. So, what feminism promised decades ago did not come to pass. What actually happened was the opposite. They predicted relationships of love because of economic freedom. That didn't happen. Relationships became even more economically mercenary, which again speaks to the predictive validity of this model.
But however, you could look at it this other way. The people who said they wanted to destroy the pair bond lied to men about what was going to happen in order to get them on board. And they knew that this was going to be the result. They knew that this would destroy human pair bonding. Because the thing is that they didn't just challenge women's economic contributions, which is absolutely ridiculous. Women always contributed economically throughout all of human history until those periods of times where they switched to being consumers because of the surplus that industrialization created, and they wanted to distribute the surplus. But like, aside from that, women have always been productive, and honestly, Proverbs 31 specifically says a godly woman does not have idle hands. I guess Christians don't really, or at least the ones you're talking about, Tilder, don't really read that or internalize it. But
well, they buy into like the post, like you said, the modern chivalric romantic model of relationships and marriage. So that's where they get that I'm going to work and she's not going to have to kind of thing. And even a lot of so-called red pill guys do that too. A lot of these manosphere guys, they buy into the same bullshit narrative.
Yeah, but and in addition to pursuing this so-called new economic freedom, which it wasn't, or it wasn't economic expectations, because I guess the difference is in the past, women were expected to be their economic activities were expected to be in the context of a family, whereas now women are freed to have jobs that don't support families, and to just support themselves. And we congratulate this as if it's a great accomplishment, and that would never have been congratulated in any period of time. But anyway, my point is that not only did feminists pursue this, which again wasn't particularly new, but whatever, they pursued all of this crap about men, all of this lying about what men are and what they're worth, and all of this marginalization of masculinity and attacking masculinity. And so the fact that they lied to men about what they were doing does not surprise me in the slightest. I have the inverse of the surprised Pikachu face. I have the non-surprised Pikachu face. Not that surprised. Okay, let's keep going.
Okay. Due to the focus on early human development, the few strategies offered for creating change primarily concentrate on this period and are reliant upon parents raising their children in different ways. The theories that provide the foundation for a large portion of this body of feminism rely on scholarship by Freud and Lacan. While this classical body of work is valuable in that it illustrates that masculinity and femininity are achieved and that women have sexual desires and needs, many of these theories are also misogynistic and place men in positions of superiority over women. Oh, God. So Freud and Lacan's work is basically what we're going to rely on, but it's kind of problematic too, because it puts, like, basically the framework of men oppress women also necessitates that men be superior in some way. Otherwise, how could they oppress them? And therefore, it's misogynistic because oh my God. Okay, some question the use of basing psychoanalytic feminism on theories created by men, particularly since they are often presented as truth claims and cures for those who are subject to psychoanalysis. This sentence, all right, listen again. Some question the use of basing psychoanalytic feminism on theories created by men. So just the fact that men even did this work is a problem, and according to some. And another thing is so the problem is that because it's created by men, they are often presented as truth claims and cures for those who are subject to psychoanalysis. So this is a little bit too objective in its claims when we should continuously live in the world of the subjective. So we don't like that. We don't like that it's actually like Freud was looking for answers, even though we like his baseline. We don't like the fact that he's male, sad accident, and also the fact that he actually made truth claims and provided solutions for those who are subject, or cures for those who are, even if you disagree with that. The fact that they basically have a problem with the fact that men look at the world in an objective way and only what is measurable. And when they diagnose issues, they make claims which they think are true. And then if they can prove that they're true, like they follow the scientific method, I guess. I don't think Freud did, but and then they look for solutions. All of these things are bad, apparently. You see? Additionally,
but they're not women's opinions. That's the problem.
Yeah, because it's not women's opinions, exactly.
Additionally, Brian, the
Yeah.
struggle session must continue and be eternal.
Yeah.
And I could actually
never ending.
I could actually get into this on the level of literature analysis and how women, when they write, they are always decoding a social web, and the process never stops. Like the process of metabolizing who's positioned relative to who feels what about who's lying about what, it never stops to the point where an action is formed and performed. It's always continuous analysis. And I'll just leave it as an exercise to the viewer what continuous deconstruction of the social web resembles. Continuous deconstruction of everything in terms of latent social meaning everywhere, forever, and at no point do you stop the process to actually do something that creates an effect in the greater world outside of genocide. Okay, I'll step off my.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Additionally, psychological theory interpreted the feminine experience largely in relation to masculinity. which is one of the critiques of science and knowledge offered by psychoanalytic feminism. So, it should be, I guess we have to interpret the feminine experience in a vacuum. While there is an acknowledgement of the need to change dualistic thinking by framing the examination of women's subordination on the differences between genders, the either-or split that is being challenged by psychoanalytic feminism is actually being reified. Reified. Yeah. Women are assumed to naturally want to have and raise children, and men are assumed to be satisfied being away from their families, both physically and emotionally. But that's not true. Like, men want to be with their families, but never mind. How about a man on a farm? What about those people? They're with their kids all the time. I guess they only think of it if you live in like an industrialized city or something.
Yeah, well, that's another thing that's a product of industrialization. Like, can't she separate that? Before industrialization, men were constantly with their kids. Like
Yeah, but
literally.
The people. But the thing is, it's not even like a thing that is post-industrial. Like, there are people on farms today, right now, that are like working together, and they're or even not even then, people in communities where the father works close to his family. So it's not even really like gone. It's, I mean, definitely it's more, like in the rural areas as opposed to the urban areas. But I mean, they're acting like there are no rural areas. Like, those places don't exist, even though literally they're part of this invisible backbone of our civilization that feminists ignore constantly. Like you were always talking about, Alison, like the base production, the production of the things that are essentially the let's say upstream from all of the stuff that feminists complain about, like sexist air conditioning or whatever, and
Yeah.
or not having equal pay at like some made up daytime daycare, adult daycare job at Google, where none of that is even possible if they're not getting like raw materials and fossil fuels and lumber and things and stuff from farms, like food and grain,
Silver.
right?
Yeah. And silver.
Resource extraction is the foundation of the...
What the hell? My phone just started talking to me. Okay. It agreed, but yeah, out of the blue, my phone just started talking.
What's interesting, your phone is male.
Yeah. Anyway, well, because it's an objective answer. Of course it's male.
Right, of course it's... All right, let's keep going.
Anyway, I got another super chow. So Great Indoors gives us $5 and says, Teal dear, now I'm not saying she's a gold digger, but she ain't dealing with a social scientist who thinks his own perception speaks louder than facts. Citation needed. Thank you. That was a Kanye song. You guys remember that? She'll take my money when I'm in need. All right. Anyway. Yes, he knew what gold diggers were. So anyway, there is no accounting for ambiguity in gender, or that sexuality and sexual differences are not necessarily related to gender. Within this type of feminism, there is no space for sexuality other than heterosexuality. Other assumptions, including those of race, ethnicity, class, nation status, ability, and other issues that affect family structure, childhood, and parenting, also largely remain unacknowledged and unexamined. So now we're getting into the intersections. Of course we are, right?
The problem with Freud is he didn't go far enough.
Yeah.
This is what they say. It's like, oh, look at all the disagreement in feminist scholarship. Yeah, the disagreement is you saying everyone wasn't radical enough.
Yes.
There's never a disagreement that's, hey, maybe we're wrong. Maybe we've gone too far. No, it's always, we need to march further and faster into that end of history. Let's go. Everything has to be deconstructed. Everything. Nothing shall remain in any sort of peace.
Yep. It's true. Also, by primarily placing the focus of change on individuals, either in the realm of parenting or in that of creating knowledge, larger societal institutions and systems that create, produce, and reproduce oppression continue without question. There are scholars within what was that?
Destroy society.
Yep. Tear it all down. There are scholars within psychoanalytic feminism who are actively working to answer these critiques and therefore expand this body of feminism. This includes integrating concepts of gender that are more fluid, ambiguous, and expansive through the what? Not just destroy society, but destroy like basically our biology, or at least try to. I mean, they are kind of. Remember when they said they weren't transing the kids and that wasn't happening? Anyway, there are scholars within psychoanalytic feminism who are actively working to answer these critiques and therefore expand this body of feminism. This includes integrating concepts of gender that are more fluid, ambiguous, and expansive through the incorporations of postmodernist perspective, postmodernism. Understandings of gender, particularly female, are no longer defined in relationship to and from what is male. So so they want to bring in postmodernism to understand gender, but particularly the female gender. I think I'm going to make a video about words I refuse to use, and I do one about gender, because it's not a thing that's made up. By widening the approach of beyond dualistic definitions and assumptions of gender and sexuality, this work seeks to encompass the influence of history, politics, and cultural influences shaping understandings and experiences of gender and women's multiple locations in society. Isn't it weird that they talk about gender like it's fluid, but women are totally real? They totally exist. Woman is real. Everything else is not.
Yep.
Okay, that's the end of the. That's it, Alison. See also cultural feminism, feminism in sociology, Freud, Sigmund, Lacan, Jacques, patriarchy, postmodern feminism, psychoanalysis. Okay.
Yeah.
God
Well, the thing
damn,
is,
what a
this
bunch
is a
of
couple of decades old, so obviously we can see where this has gone into the modern realms of intersectionality, where all of this stuff no longer exists. Everything has to be fluid. There's no such thing as, straight, gay, anything like that. No, everything has to be queer. Everything is non-binary now, which just encompasses anything and everything necessarily. It's anything that just is not one of those two things. The expansion has happened. The fluidity has happened. The ambiguity has happened. We are now seeing the fruits of this particular seed.
Yep. By the way, all these different. Oh, sorry, Alison. Go ahead.
Yeah, what a bunch of bullshit we just listened to. Like, I'm actually pretty good at finding patterns and deconstructing things down to it's like a fundamental substrate. And I'm trying to deconstruct this, and it's just more shit all the way down. Like, it's not turtles all the way down; it's turtle shit all the way down. There's no substance here, except the framework is, of course, she's making mouth noises that make men do stuff. But the problem is that the fact that men do stuff because a woman makes mouth noises is the most solid counter argument to everything she's claiming here. This woman wouldn't exist in the society she says men made. Not just because she wouldn't be able to think. She might be able to think this stuff, but she would never be given a platform for it. She no one would pay for it. She would just be screaming into a paper bag in the back of a loony bin. Which honestly really is what should have happened. All right, so that we got through it, guys. Yay!
We did. I know. I'm kind of surprised.
We didn't die in the process. Yeah. Final words, anyone?
I'm still here.
I mean, I could still go through the fact that men and women exist. My literature analysis has pretty much proven. I mean, it hasn't, like, I haven't published it. It isn't peer reviewed, but so far it's pretty much capable of classifying any author blind into a male or female camp based on what they choose to attend to, which means that there are significant cognitive differences between men and women. And that makes perfect sense because those significant cognitive differences rest on significantly different endocrine architectures that nevertheless are compatible and evolve to work together to produce children. What a surprise, huh? Hey, everybody. Humans pair bond and produce children. You heard it here first, man. I'm going to patent that. Okay. So that's pretty much all I have to say, unless Teal Deer wants to say anything further.
My final thought on this is, once again, I'm just going to highlight this is from the Blackwell Encyclopedia of Sociology, published from 2007. Of course, the reason that I'm going back through all these things is pointing out to people the history of this movement. As I said, we are seeing the fruits of this particular seed that was planted 20 years ago. Of course, the research that this is based on is older than that, from the 80s and the 90s. This stuff was always there. People who like to do the old feminism is going too far. It's just, no, it hasn't gone off the rails in the last handful of years. It was always off the rails. It was always going to be off the rails. And the other reason that I like to highlight these things is, again, this is an encyclopedia. You know, those things, those books that take up an entire shelf in a library, something like that, those things that are published as being, is generally considered to be like the gold standard of authority on any particular subject, anything like that. Like, I'm sure everyone's familiar with like the Encyclopedia Britannica. That's basically like, oh, the gold standard of anything. If it's in there, it's true, pretty much. This sort of thing is basically being put in sort of a similar category. This is encyclopedic knowledge. This has just been put in there as true. So this stuff is being taught to people as true, which is then perhaps no surprise why these sorts of things have the impact that they have. It's been, it's a long running thing. Unfortunately, I hate kind of using the same buzzwords and phrases over and over again, but it's true. When you deal with academia and things like this, you are dealing fundamentally with captured institutions. They are very homodox in their thinking. This stuff is the preferred narrative. If you challenge this sort of thing, your research will not get anywhere. The only way that you can sort of begin challenging some of this stuff is by finding very heterodox institutions, or by going into basically sort of the subjects that these people could not fight, where you are looking at things like sociobiology, biopsychology, things like that, where you actually begin to sort of undermine these ideas on those basal metabolic levels, because they couldn't take that on, which is why they've spent this several decades building this borderline unassailable castle of this. Because, of course, if you point out to them that something that there is wrong, or even if you just question, they get to point at an encyclopedia. They get to point at a shelf of encyclopediae and say it's in there to invalidate you and your questions and anything like that. And that is a very powerful societal weapon, because unfortunately appeals to authority work. There is a lot of dismantling that you need to do if you want to fight this. And you have to dismantle, at the very least, decades, because I'm, of the mind that there is this theological underpinning to feminism, because you're going back to the spiritualists, all of whom, coincidentally, a bunch of them happen to be Fabian socialists as well, back in the 1800s. I'm of the opinion that it's 200 to 250 years in the making, but I don't know. I guess I'm just making the problem look infinitely bigger than it actually is, and maybe that'll put some people off if I actually keep telling them that too much. They might go, oh my God, we can't do anything. But it just sort of gives you the scale of what you're up against when you want to demonstrate how and why this stuff is wrong. It's another reason why I go through papers like this, why I go through their encyclopedia, why I've got stacks of feminist textbooks behind me, which I want us to go through in varying degrees, just in general, because I think it's very useful. Not only just for the audience, but for panelists as well, because it expands what we're familiar with feminist theory. There's always additional insanity that you can cram into your brain about this topic. But it just gives you more and more references when they try to pull the nonsense that That's not what feminism is. It's not my movement. This is not representative of anything like that. You get to throw their own scholarship at them. And then you have to, watch the inkjet dance that they do to try to deny their own canon of literature because they find that one of their positions becomes untenable. So then they go on to something else. It's not patriarchy that did this, capitalism did that. No, it's actually racism that did this, white supremacy that did that. They just pick up the goalpost and sprint around.
Yeah, it's just whack-a-mole. Yeah.
To me, this is just my mental image of trying to deal with feminists is just them with a pair of goalposts on their back, just around a football pitch, and you're just standing there, just staring at them, holding a book, and you're just like, but here, this, and that's how it goes. Unfortunately, there's a lot of stuff that you need to know and learn to fight this stuff. You're going up against decades of entryist nonsense because that's how they've done it.
Yep.
One person gets in. For people who don't know what entryism is a communist Marxist strategy of seizing institutions. One person gets in, and then they basically just say, you're saying the right things, I'll let you in. And that's the reason why I referenced that peer review drama before at the beginning, where one of the peers just said, women are understudied in this, you cannot tell me otherwise. That's an example of entryism. Well, it's the gatekeeping side of entryism. It's you're saying the wrong things, you're not going to get in, but if someone says women are understudied, come on board, my friend. Welcome. I will peer review your stuff. And this is why you have these borderline unassailable mountains of feminist literature, of feminist evidence that they think supports their stuff, but it doesn't. But that's another problem. They can throw seemingly infinite citations, seemingly infinite papers at you because they've had decades of publishing this stuff with borderline no oversight.
Yeah, I made a video about the 5 stages of entryism on my gaming and culture channel, Honey Badger Arcade, a while ago. And I explained like how Gamergate happened, back in the day. And basically how this happens everywhere. I think Me Too only, if we're just to talk about the sort of cultural institutions, businesses, Hollywood, animation, gaming, whatever it is, and they use the same tactics. So, in brief, the 5 stages are, first they join and act like that they're a part of your club. So, I like this stuff too. I'm a big old gamer, and of course they welcome them in because especially the sort of like nerdier like cultures, because they're looking for more acceptance. They want like to be seen as like, I don't know, like less unpalatable, and women have a really easy time getting into those spaces because it's like, oh yeah, we really want like female gamers, right? So first they get in that way, then they start to recruit sympathizers from internal factions or caucuses. They promote allies, and they start to essentially criticize the space a little bit. Like, oh, isn't it a little bit sexist? Don't you think this could be different? How about this little tweak here? And of course, usually these spaces bend the knee. Oh yeah, we want to be like inclusive. We don't want to exclude anybody, right? Then they exploit contradictions, amplify divisions, like whatever it is. Obviously, it's usually between men and women. Like, oh, this place is not really safe for women or whatever. And of course, it never comes to people's mind that like, if they thought it was unsafe, then why did they think it was cool in the first place? But by that point, the people in that space, they're not able to like fight that because they're already in there, right? Then they take they take some kind of leadership position within it, like whatever. They get into the industry, they get some clout, they get some kind of like social cachet, and then they basically kick everybody else out and they take over. And that's how it works at every level, from like little things like hobbies to all the way up to governments and corporations. This is what happened you name it. If you think it got paused, that's what I mean when I say this is paused. What I mean is a bunch of woke retards took over, usually women, and they basically just, control the space. And they usually run it into the ground after that because they don't actually know how to run it. They don't know what made it good. They just wanted to take over. So yeah, this is just like I made a video about it. I'm just saying the 5 stages of entryism.
This is why we all need to become machines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did get one more super chow, and then maybe I don't know if you want to look at some, see if you got any thank yous to give or whatever. But Richard gave us $5 and says, "Is this the extended play on A Repeating Loop of Labor by Paris Polima?" I don't get it. Sounds like a reference, inside joke or something.
You distracted me. I'm gonna blame you, Richard. No, this is Spin Eternally by Carmilla. And I'm not on loop. If I was on loop, I wouldn't fail. Okay, I'll go check to see if we have any thank yous to give. I'm gonna have to work on that one. I'm not able to get through it.
Yeah.
And if you would like to support us, feedthebadger.com/support. If you do it now, I can do a shout out. Prior to the show, shout out to OKFS for 250. So thank you, OKFS.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just like a woman.
Sorry.
I feel called out. I don't feel called out. All right. Okay, just a sec. I gotta check if this individual wants me to use a name. So I gotta open up the dashboard, which is always a trial. It's like an obstacle course. Okay, so thank you to, let's see, where are you? Laptop. Thank you to no, that's not correct.
Laptop.
Yeah. No, that was not correct. Thank you to Brett for $50. Thank you, Brett.
All right, thank you, Brett.
I will eat your ass.
Now he's never going to donate again. Or support again.
Or will he donate more?
Yeah. Right.
All right. So again, feedthebadger.com/support to help us out for the month. And if at any point after the show is over, you want to send us a message, you tip with that message, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. And yeah.
Do you want to do another thing, Teal, or like a different paper, or do you need to rest your soul?
Yes, but yes. I do think that the Theorizing Patriarchy book is worth a look, especially the epistemology section. The introduction isn't too long. The epistemology section, I think, is only like a couple of pages, couple of A4 pages, something like that. I think that is a good one, just because it does here is what I am going to define patriarchy as thing. It also points more to the just sort of some of the origins of thought for it.
I watched the thing about triple systems theory that you sent me.
Yeah, that was another one to look at as well, because that is kind of the dual and triple system theory stuff, which is covered a bit in the Theorizing Patriarchy book. I think it's mentioned in the epistemology section. But a reason that I was interested in that was because that is something that is in the UK A-level syllabus in sociology. So that's children aged 16 to 18. And it's something that they will be taught about. And it's basically just sort of the semi-progenitor of intersectionality, because triple system theory is gender, Marxism, and race.
Ah, yes, of course.
Yeah.
It's like the Holy Trinity, but unholy.
Yeah.
All right, 3 separate things, but one in essence. All right.
I'd also like to propose the video that I put through. Although I'm guessing that it's even more word salad than everything else.
What video?
Oh, it's the Donna Hathaway at the Next Nature Museum. Extremis Laureate 2022-25. But
are you
it might just be too instant. Yeah, I'll go through that, but it might just
next
be too
time.
instant.
It is also a 45-minute long talk, so that will be
I could
I don't
probably
know,
go
a
through it.
5-parter, who knows?
You can get like
Yeah.
five or so time codes, and we can
Yeah, or
just listen to
something.
those.
Yeah.
Like the
But-
top arguments, the top brain breaking. You know. All right.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah,
Well,
we-
anyway, I'm just
yeah.
trying to get an idea. All
Next
right, I guess we
Friday?
should- Yeah, next Friday. Let's do it next Friday.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
That's what I was saying.
Okay.
Next Friday.
All right. Well, anyway, thanks, Teal Deer, for coming and hanging out with us while we do this, and also humoring me by looking at your animated cartoon that I made. And
I
hopefully
like
we'll see you next-
how, because obviously it's a looped, but it's going backwards. I just kind of love the, like, I'm going to exhale the smoke and then bring it back in. That is, you're not
I know.
wasting anything.
I might just get rid of the smoke altogether and see if I can do it without that. But I kind of like it. Anyway, or maybe I'll just get rid of the pipe. It might. Maybe I'll add a monocle instead. Would that be okay?
I like the pipe.
Oh, okay.
He's a very erudite stag.
Yeah.
Well, that's a total misrepresentation of my character.
Oh man.
Because,
Okay.
you know, I'm an illiterate dumbass. That's what I've been told so many times by all the feminists on the internet. I can't even read. Haven't you heard?
I'm just like you guys. Okay. All right, Allison,
All right.
go ahead and do the things, and we're gonna get out of here. 'cause I
One
gotta
more
run some
time.
errands.
One more time. All right. So feedthebadger.com/support. Support the show so you can keep having these rundowns of feminist chicanery everywhere that the feminist chicaner we will be to point it out. So once again, that's feedthebadger.com/support. And if you want to send a message, feedthebadger.com/just-a-tip. Okay, Brian.
All right. Well, if you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we talked about on the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of Maintaining Frame with Teal Deer, and we will see you guys in the next one. Have a good weekend.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.